guess they know what we're looking at behind us. That might have been the last meeting.
Big old drop in Australia.
What happened is I would email them to show up and they're like,
So he's like, forget it.
well, it was embarrassing then. I said,
I can't call anyone on anything because, but still, you would think you would cross the day. The art teachers might be here with the students too.
Ben's gonna have a Passover.
I just had
I'm surprised people don't eat them when they come to meetings. My bad.
all right, good evening, folks. I'm showing 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. If you would please join me for a moment of silence, and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Jackson. Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll call this school board session into order at this time. And the first item of business is Section 2, approval of the agenda.
Dr. White, I'd like to bring something before the board. I would like to pull item 10.1, but I would ask that we pull it with the option of us being able to discuss about it in future board meetings on how we can properly get this before the general public. I feel the timing is I truly believe the timing needs to be where we can get it to the general public.
Yes, sir. All right.
To where we can make sure that this initiative passes. But I can say here that at some point, we're going to have to address this.
I agree.
And, you know, to all those that are out there tonight that work for the school district, I just want y'all to know thank you for coming out here tonight. But I also want to make sure that if we do this, we do it right. And I've struggled all weekend long with this. So I respectfully ask that we pull this, but I also ask that we, in future board meetings, bring it up to where we can talk about it and do it properly.
I understand, Mr. Bryant. All right, sir, thank you. Mr. Attorney, is this require any further action on the part of the board?
I think he's made a request to pull it up. The superintendent can, as long as she has no objection to his request, I think you can simply make that change, and when you vote to approve the agenda, it will not be a part of the agenda for tonight.
All right, hearing no objection then.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
a question.
Sure.
So can I just ask it an agenda order question? Say it gets left on the agenda, but we don't want to necessarily vote to approve or not approve a resolution. Could a motion be made to still have the item on discussion for this evening, but remove the resolution?
I
My
think-
understanding is that the only item on the agenda is the resolution.
I think that when you come to board member discussion, that certainly that would be a topic. If you had an issue to bring up there about that matter, that'd be appropriate.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
But if people are here tonight, you know, to discuss that item, they can address it if we remove it from the agenda, but could they address it under visitors or no, because they would have had to been on the agenda as a visitor?
Why would we want to, if we're going to pull it from the agenda, why in the world would we now want to discuss it when we'd be taking absolutely no action? If Mr. Bryant or any board member at a later date wishes to bring this back or something, it appears to be very foolish to me, for we won't be discussing something that we're going to take absolutely no action on.
Well, I would disagree in that this is our only public
Makes no
forum
sense.
to discuss things with each other in the sunshine. Unless we do it at a forum, we can't do that. But you clarified my question, Mr. McGinnis, thank you.
I think it makes absolutely no sense to discuss something that was discussed at the last workshop for nearly 2 hours. But now if Mr. Bryant wishes to pull his agenda item, unless another board member, at another board meeting wishes to address it, I really don't understand what we on discuss.
All right, well, let's go ahead and try to move forward as we have a lot of visitors here tonight. My understanding is that the action item is for a resolution.
That's correct.
And my understanding is that Mr. Bryant, in consort with the superintendent, hearing no objection, wishes to pull the action item. And so I'm looking for a motion to approve the school board agenda with the item pulled.
So moved.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Destin, second by Mr. Walker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? The vote is 5-0. All right, so let's move on to happier business. Recognitions, Madam Superintendent. Recognition of Davon Burns. Davon, would you come forward? I see Principal Day here, and Mr. Bryant, I think you might have had something to do with this agenda item, so maybe you'll go forward as well. And we're recognizing you for heroic action.
She's so wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Ready for me to speak?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Day.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being here tonight. We often don't recognize the things that students, it gets overlooked. It's kind of like my dad said years ago, there's a song out there, it's called Dirty Laundry. People like to hear it. But we don't, this is not dirty laundry, this is good stuff. This is about a young lady at our school. Where's Miss Carol? Stand up, Miss Carol. Miss Carol had an obstruction in her throat, and Davion reacted like she always would and I knew she would, because I've known Davion before this situation. We talk at lunch, and I get to talk to my students at lunch, and she's just a wonderful child. Absolutely wonderful model child. And had great conversations, but Davion came up and assisted Miss Carroll, got her to stand up vertical, put her arms up over her head, and popped her on the back, and out came the obstruction. And you're just so wonderful. I just. No, you're making me cry, okay? But I just want to read this. It says, in recognition, Davion Burns, in recognition of outstanding service and her heroic actions on March 27, 2018 at Crestview High School, Ms. Burns saw that her teacher, Mrs. Davina Carroll, was choking on a piece of food. Without hesitation or panic, she jumped into action to assist her teacher. Without her quick thinking, the situation could have ended in tragedy. It is with sincere gratitude and respect that Crestview High School thanks Ms. Burns for her immediate response and actions to this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is why we do what we do. Is children like this, okay? And Mom, I got something for you. All right?
Thank you.
Yep, you
Thank
bet.
you.
You bet. Thank you. And again, thank y'all. Thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to recognize
Thank you, John.
Davion. And you know, this just promotes good things for other students to do. I recognized another student day before yesterday, last Friday, for turning a wallet that had $300 in it. And I went and recognized him in front of their peers and recognized Davion, and we just again appreciate you and love you dearly.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you. Come on up. Wonderful. All right, thank y'all. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Jackson.
guys.
All right, thank you. All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Day. Superintendent, moving on to recognition 3.2 of the 2017-2018 Kids Tag Art Program winners, presented by Mr. Ben Anderson. Mr. Anderson, please come forward, please.
Hey, guys.
Well, good evening, school board members, Superintendent Jackson, and our many distinguished guests and the young people that brings here tonight. And thank you for their families that are here also. The Kids Tag Art Program is a joint partnership between the Okaloosa County Tax Collector's Office and the school board district. This program, and Ms. Jackson, we certainly appreciate your support through your schools over the 5 years that we've been doing this. But what's significant here is this program is non-tax revenue to our elementary schools. And I think that's always a good thing. It's a program that we have been a partner with for 5 years here in Okaloosa County. Well, the first year when we brought this program forward and working with the elementary schools, we raised $5,520. And at that time, we did not have any sponsors to work together as schools and community in partnership. And I'd like to recognize Sherry Bruns. Sherry has been our director of this program. Stand up, Sherry, please. But Sherry said, this isn't good enough. We can do better. And she went to work at finding sponsors and reaching out into the community to people to support this program and what it has done for the children. And so this year, we're very pleased and proud to tell you that this year's contribution through the Kids Tag Art Program is $15,800. So it has been a partnership of young people bringing their talents. It's been a partnership of teachers and principals working with students to develop arts and the interest in the arts, whether it be art in itself or music, but helping open the minds of the young people in the elementary schools. And it's also been a partnership of bringing community sponsors into our school system in support of these young people. So for the past 5 years, we have distributed to elementary schools, those that are participating, $46,742.80 during the past 5 years. Thank you very much for that. And to put another number to that, what's kind of interesting is we have sold over 3,000 tags that were designed and drawn by these young children and shared by their families, their neighbors, people in their churches, their friends. Over 3,000 tags are probably not just here in Okaloosa County. I would imagine they're around the country where the grandparents are. So the Kids Tag Art program was started in Polk County in 2006 and 7, and since it has grown to 15 counties statewide, and we're very proud to be one of those 15 counties. And it continues to grow. I'm going to make it a personal goal next year to add 5 new counties around the state because of the effect of what this program is. Well, year to date, since it began in 2006, this program has collected and raised statewide over $1 million of non-tax revenue for the elementary schools in the state of Florida. It's a great accomplishment, and it's one that will be recognized on May 15th by the Governor of Florida and the Florida Cabinet, and I will be there to participate in that presentation. So Okaloosa County ranks 7th out of 15th. Now, Sherry informed me again that this is not good enough of what we can do, and certainly not by the standard that we set for ourselves in this county. And I think she's drawn on me to help her get with some sponsors. But we were $200 short of the 6th position, and we won't let that happen again, I can assure you. So again, we're very proud of our opportunity to participate with the elementary schools, the young people, every year in developing the arts through the eyes and minds of these gifted talents that we have in our school system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
We are going to continue. Thank you. We will continue. Sherry will come forward, and she will call forward our winners that we have. We select the winners from each school, and we have a certificate for them, and so we're ready to go on that.
Mr. Chairman, might you convene the public hearing and recess until he finishes?
All right, Mr. Anderson, let me do
Yes,
some
sir.
business here, and I'll come right back to you.
Okay.
All right, folks, we are scheduled for a public hearing at 6:15, so I'm going to recess the current meeting and convene the public hearing, and recess the public hearing, and reconvene the regular meeting. Mr. Anderson, was that enough time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is this where I come in?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna stand facing this way so I can call everyone out, and when you come out. Is that better? When you come forward, Mr. Anderson's going to present the certificate that you have, and we also, as a part of the program, give you a plate. So some of the winners may not have ordered their own plate, but that was part of what we wanted to do, is give them a plate that they made. So from Blue Water Elementary, we have Meridian Sobel and Rosie Bentley. Would you please come forward? And if you would please stand right over here. We're going to get a picture afterwards. All right, from Bob Sykes Elementary, we have Catherine, George, and Mary Murray.
And I would like to add, before I get too far down the list, Principal Amy Clue from Blue Water and Sarah Szynski, our art teachers, I'd like to give them a hand because they're the ones that really put in the work at school. And at Bob Sykes, Vicki Hayden, and Donna Taylor, I saw, there you go. Thank you very much. From Edge Elementary, we have Zachary Yeager and Tenley George. Principal is Dr. Sam Dawson, and art teacher is Donna Peters. Congratulations. From Elliott Point, where the principal is Kathy Ard and the art teacher is Jeanette Webb, we have Marcela Osegueda Gonzalez and Landon Frizzle. From Florosa, where the principal is Dawn Massey and the art teacher is Linda Holland, we have Evangelina Jurado and Marek Sventenko. From Lewis Middle School, where the principal is Mike Fantaski and the art teacher is Emmy Stockman, we have Madison Dillon and Emmy Holman. From Liza Jackson Preparatory School, where the principal is Kay McKinley and the art teacher is Joy Quitzel. Did I get that right, Joy? We have Sophia Negron and Peyton Griffith. From Northwood Elementary, we have Principal Dr. Donna Good and art teacher is Beth Patterson. We have Faith Anderson and Caitlin McDonald. From Riverside, principal is Tammy Motz and art teacher is Martha Minnick. We have Jocelyn Cardenas and Tara Clary. Come stand up here. From Shalimar, where the principal is Kim McSparron and the art teacher is Tom Latenser with help from Karen Spencer, Naomi Cardoza, and Sarah Kapp. From Walker, Principal Lorna Carnley and art teacher Jennifer Furr, we have Raven Griffith and Cadence Strickland. And we have two special awards, one of which is called the Heart Smart Art Award, and that the category or the qualifications for such an award is to draw something that indicates having a healthy heart. And our winner for the Heart Smart Art Award is Angel Sluka from Lewis. We also have one more special award, and it was in that other box, I believe. And this is called the Tax Collector's Choice Award. And what he does is he goes through and looks at the Award of Distinction winners, and he chooses one that he will put on the front of his vehicle and keep it there for the remaining of the school year, for the next school year, until we have another Tax Collector's Choice Award winner. And the winner for the Tax Collector's Choice Award is Sarah Kapp from Shalimar. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our sponsors, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, Corporate Benefits, and Aflac with Leo Tisa. So if you would congratulate them, give us a minute to do some pictures. And parents, we're going to step outside, and we're going to get pictures with everyone, because I know you don't want me in your pictures. And we're going to get one with the tax collector as well. And the principals and teachers, if you're here, if you would join us outside as well, we'd like to honor you as well. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We appreciate everything you do. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, kids, move forward. There you go. Okay. I'm going to recess this meeting. Yes, sir.
Madison, you might move up.
16.1.
Actually, when you slide down, find and fill out the edge.
Sarah, you come in here to the center right here. Whenever you see the camera, make sure your eyes see the camera. Especially your parents.
All right, folks, I'm going to hold the recess here just for about 2 minutes, minute and a half, and this is the time we normally customarily let folks, if they wish to stay, they're welcome to, but if they want to go eat, they're welcome to do that now as well. Christy, are any of these visitors to speak regarding the public hearing? Regarding the policy? One? All right, then I'm going to call the visitor that wishes to speak on the public policy.
Correct.
All right, and then before we move into the public policy. Can you pass me that card over, Christine? Thank you, Ms. Evans. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and convene the regular meeting back into session because we do have one visitor that would like to address the public hearing, the item that we're about to take up. So at this time, I would call forward Mr. Gene Early, 908 Aloma Fay Lane, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Welcome, Mr. Early. And
Good
Mr.
evening.
McInnes, would you provide some direction regarding our rules?
Yes, sir.
Jeff, I think I got it.
You'll have 4 minutes to make
Okay.
your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the school board, I would like to thank you for your patience and your diligence in getting School Board Policy 125 to where it is today. I would like to thank Mr. Jeff McInnes, Mr. Steve Horton, and Mr. Eric Mitchell, especially Eric. His patience with me has been phenomenal. For their time, their review and coordination, and their open and honest dialogue in reviewing and acting on my concerns with the wording of this new policy. I met with these three professionals. I was very impressed with their knowledge, their insight, and their honest concern to provide a quality and usable policy for the school board. Again, thank you very much to all involved. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Early, and we appreciate your help in working through all those items. All right, is there anything else, board members? All right, Mr. McInnes, so I'm going to recess the regular meeting. We're going to move down on your agenda, board members, to section 16.1, and I will now call the public hearing back into session. And so 16.1 is a public hearing for adoption of a new school board policy 1-25, public records request presented by Mr. Eric Mitchell, Director MIS, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. Is there anyone else here tonight to speak to this new policy? Seeing none, board members.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Thrush. Any discussion, board members? Hearing none, all in favor? The vote is 5-0. Thank you. All right, close the public hearing. We'll move back into regular session. And board members, if you'll scroll back up to section, what's that? 5? Yeah. All right, so we do have some more public comment, is that correct? All right, 5.1, public comment. I have some blue cards here. I have one from Mr. Shane Moody, 4484 Legendary Drive, Destin, Florida. Welcome, Mr. Moody. Please come forward. And Mr. McInnes, would you give Mr. Moody some?
45 minutes?
You'll have 4 minutes, Mr. Moody.
All right, thank you, thank you. Mr. Chairman, school board members, thank you so much, and Superintendent, good to see you, and Jeff, good to see you. I hadn't seen you in a while. I am here to talk about the half-cent sales tax that has been pulled, so I understand and appreciate your reasoning behind that, and I appreciate still being able to make some comments. I'm not here, I represent the Destin Chamber of Commerce, and our board again today reaffirmed their position from back in August, September of supporting the half-cent school tax. I'm not here to ask for anything specific from Destin, but we're looking at the county as a whole. You know, some of our buildings are some of the oldest in the state, and they're desperate need for updates. Working in economic and community development like I do, not just locally, but at the state level through the Florida Chamber of Commerce and the Florida Chamber Foundation, what we've learned is the number one need in the state of Florida is talent development and education to fill the jobs that are out there. We got to have quality facilities for that to take place. Take Destin Elementary, for example. If we could rid that school of the portables, not only do we have an opportunity to improve the educational atmosphere, but we vastly improve the safety for the students as well. Safety from weather, from violence, and other potentially dangerous situations. We can add wings to Destin Elementary, take the 5th graders, put them back out of the middle school, back into the elementary school where they should be. And that frees up space at Destin Middle School to expand that as well. Improvements to existing buildings with the proper upgrades can make the buildings nearly new, and that's a heck of a lot less expensive than acquiring property and building buildings, as you all know. I know there are a lot of dark clouds hanging over the school district right now, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do everything possible to improve the educational experience for all of the students in Okaloosa County. One of the most important aspects of a community being great is the education system. We're lucky here in Okaloosa County. That's one reason that we are such a great place to live and work, because our schools are outstanding. If we let our facilities deteriorate, our education deteriorates, and if that happens, then our community deteriorates, and we should not allow that. The Destin Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors supports moving forward with the half-cent sales tax and asks you to do the same for every student in Okaloosa County. They deserve the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. And I'm sure, sir, we'll be calling on you in the future.
Please do.
Yes, sir. All right, I also have one other public comment, and this is from Greg Fink, Mr. Fink. And 8637 West View, I believe, Pensacola, Florida.
Yes, sir.
Please come forward, and Mr. McInnes, would you provide the same direction?
Yes, sir, you'll have 4 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you very much. My name is Greg Fink. I'm with a company called the Listener Group. We recently ran a poll. Actually, a little bit of background. The Listener Group is a call center, is a market research firm. We've been running polls for throughout most of the state here for the last 10 or 15 years. Actually, the Listener Group had got out of business a little bit, and so basically we restarted back up the Listener Group around about 6 or 7 months ago. And we originally started doing surveys in Okaloosa County. We did surveys for the city of Destin, so we're very familiar with the polling apparatus of Okaloosa County. We also did surveys for Alexis Tibbetts quite a few years ago as well. And we've done a lot of surveys throughout the area, and so we know pretty much about the Okaloosa climate. And so what we did was we took a look at all the different issues going around the state. We have been polling about safety issues, and we've been surveying about gun issues and about school safety issues. And we thought, with the Okaloosa County, actually we're doing polls quite a bit around the Panhandle. But for Okaloosa County, we wanted to see what the people thought about the safety issues and about the different situations going on, and also about we heard about you guys wanting to possibly adopt a half-cent sales tax. And so we went ahead and threw that on the poll as well. And what we found out was around 48% of the people were very interested in voting for a half-cent sales tax at this point. And 82% of the people that were very concerned about the kids on the portables and about the children, about when you have active shooter status issues or natural disaster issues or safety issues. And so basically, 82% of the people are very supportive, actually extremely important or very important, thinking that, more funds should be put in that area. We also found out that whenever we asked the survey people in Okaloosa County what they thought about the more funds being added for regular school safety, and we found around 64% said that more funds need to be supplied for that. And so we think that there's a great deal of voter support out there. There's a great deal of public support out there for a half-cent sales tax. There's a great deal of support for more safety in schools, and there's a very strong support for alleviating the portable issue and having kids go back into or move into a regular secure structure, especially with all the situations going on today. We had an issue in Nashville today with the guy, or yesterday with the guy in the Waffle House. And I mean, it's really just turning into basically they're targeting gun-free zones and everything else as far as active shooters, and then you have the natural disaster issues, and that needs to be done with funds. And I think the funds, I think the people will definitely support it because the funds need to be made available for that. And so that's basically what I'm here to talk about.
All right, Mr. Fink. Board members, any comments or questions? All right, sir. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
All right, so I think that covers them all, Ms. Evans. I'm going to pass these back down to you for your record keeping.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have a copy of Mr. Fink's polling results and any data associated, with the number of people that were polled and the types of people that were polled?
Mr. Fink, he'd like to address that.
Is that the same information that we've been given? Is that Mr. Fink's?
sent that to
Okay,
you.
so that, I just wanted to clarify the information, the polling information we
I just want
received
to
is from
clarify.
Mr. Fink.
I just want to
Okay.
clarify for the audience, the people that were polled were likely voters. We have 525 completed surveys all throughout Okaloosa County. They're likely voters. There were basically people that voted 8 out of the last 8 elections.
All right.
They were surveyed, and so it was basically weighted on the voter stats and everything else.
Was that a telephone survey?
A telephone
or
survey,
written
IVR survey.
Okay.
Basically, it's a push 1, push 2, push 3. And basically, we think that, originally the listener group started out doing live operator surveys, and I think there's a big difference between live operator and IVRs, where IVR survey is where you push a button. It's much more impulsive, which also means it's much more, what the person's thinking on top of their mind. A lot of live operator surveys, people can lead them in one direction, or they can lead them in a different direction. So I think this is the most objective manner, asking people really what they think, immediately. I think we got some really good data out of that, and I can supply it to the school board without a problem if anybody wants any of the data. So
Well, Mr. Fink, do you have a business card, sir, that you might can leave with Ms. Evans? or is
actually, I should not have one with me, but I can go ahead and email all my
that-
information.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. All right.
Okay.
We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. All right, so let's go ahead now and move to, we're still in regular meeting. So let's move down. We have no administrative personnel appointments. Moving to committee and staff reports, and of course, these were received at the workshop. Unless there are any questions about any of these board members, I say we just go ahead and move on through and move down to consent. Are there any questions about any of the workshop committee and staff reports? All right, seeing none then, we'll go down to consent agenda. Item 8.1, approval of the consent agenda.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Votes 5-0. All right, sliding down now to Section 9, Superintendent's Human Resources Recommendations. Now, I'll read these because, as we all remember, this is a new section. Item 9.1 is for information only. Employees on administrative leave, presented by Mr. Chambers, Assistant Superintendent Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. 9.2, again, for information purposes only. Deferred Retirement Option Program, DROP, presented by Mr. Marcus Chambers, Assistant Superintendent Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. Item 9.3, this is an action item. Employment separations presented by Mr. Chambers, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. Looking for a motion.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Mr. Bryant. Any discussion?
I would,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
would just like to publicly thank all the staff members. You know, obviously, this time of year is when these people will be completing their terms with the school district, and many are career educators and support staff members. So very grateful for their service to our county and our students and our community.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. All right, moving now to item 9.
We need
Oh,
to vote.
back up. Excuse me. All right, so we need to call the question. All in favor? The vote is 5-0. 9.4. Personnel recommendations presented by Mr. Marcus Chambers, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? The vote is 5-0. All right, 9.5, employee transfers presented by Mr. Marcus Chambers, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
I will second it, and I wanted to thank Mr. Chambers for putting a little explanation on there like we requested to give us a reason.
all right. Second by Mr. Destin with a commendation. Any further discussion? Hearing or seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? The vote is 5-0. 9.6, employee suspension presented by Mr. Marcus Chambers, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent for
Move it.
approval. Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? All in favor? Vote is 5-0. 9.7, reinstatement reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical examination, presented by Mr. Marcus Chambers, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor? Vote is 5-0. 9.8, leave without pay presented by Mr. Chambers, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor? The vote is 5-0. All right, so that concludes the HR activities. Let's move now to discussion agenda. There are no items on discussion agenda. Moving to section 11, construction program representatives business. Mr. Walker, do you have anything,
Just to
sir?
let you know, at the next board meeting, we'll be bringing your total plan to you on the Richburg project. It'll be next board meeting.
All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for doing that. All right, moving to section 12, information technology and seat management contract, 12.1. Task order number 2-99, Okaloosa Technical College Choice High School for 2 Salto doors presented by Mr. Dustin Keith, Specialist Seat Management, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor? Vote is 5-0. All right, Mr. Attorney gets us to section 13, your business, sir.
No report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Superintendent, you have some out-of-state field trips and so forth, and other items that you may wish to bring forward.
No report.
Thank you, ma'am. Board members' announcements and requests for information. 15.1, that will be appointments to the Value Adjustment Board, and we have those there. A motion to approve the appointment of a school board member and an alternate and a business representative. Do we have a volunteer for a school board member?
Well, since I had the privilege of listening to the school board meeting on Thursday,
Yes, sir.
I kind of heard, let's wait for Mr. Bryant to get back and see what he says.
That wasn't me, Mr. Bryant.
No, sir, I know it wasn't. But I will,
Move, Mr. Bryant.
but I will take that.
And I'll second that.
Good gracious. Well, Mr. Bryant, you definitely are performing a lot of service for the district and the school board, so thank you, sir. So Mr. Bryant would be the nomination, and the business representative, I would again ask Anna Crespo if she would serve in that capacity. Any further discussion about any of that?
I would like to say
Yes, sir.
something. I'd like to say thank you to my fellow school board member, Melissa Thrush, there for her service on this important committee that usually only meets once a month. I mean, once a year, I believe. But it is a very important meeting, but I do want to say thank you for your service.
Well, really, all the thanks goes to the clerk of court's office. They're the ones, and the property appraiser and their staff do a phenomenal job that make the value adjustment board process a lot easier. So, but I've enjoyed serving, and I've look forward to your tenure on that board. And do we need to also recommend an alternate?
Yes, you need an alternate in addition to that.
I nominate
Looking for
Dewey
an alternate,
Destin.
board members?
I nominate Dewey Destin.
I'll be an alternate because I have faith in Tim.
All right, so the alternate then would be Mr. Destin. I'm looking for a motion to.
Move it.
Motion by Mr. Walker. Need a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Thrush. Any further discussion? All in favor, let's vote. Vote is 5-0. All right, board members' announcements. So, Mr. Walker, sir, I'll start with you.
Don't have anything.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Destin?
Nothing tonight, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Thrush?
Well, Mr. Walker, much to your chagrin and probably my husband's, I'm gonna, speak tonight. I know you weren't able to be at the board workshop on Thursday, and neither was Mr. Bryant. So I do think it is important for us to discuss Mr. Bryant's agenda item that was pulled this evening. And I'm going to pass down some documents that I had referred to at the board workshop, and those documents include St. Johns County's board resolution for their half-cent sales tax. St. Johns County is one of 19 out of 67 counties that have a separate half-cent sales tax for schools. And then I already discussed at the workshop how that doesn't totally paint the broad picture that other school districts share a portion of their county's penny sales tax if their county has a penny sales tax. But I highlight in the St. John's resolution, section 2, and if in the near future we are to bring another resolution to the board for a half-cent sales tax, which I am in favor of, I would recommend that we model our section 2, which is the findings portion of the resolution, after St. John's, primarily because they succinctly outline some of the issues facing their district and basically all 67 districts in the state of Florida. Their first finding obviously lists their growth in student enrollment, and while we don't have the same percentage, we have had an increase in enrollment. And then I think we could also add just that the age of our facilities are the oldest. So that's just something for board members to review. The next document that I've copied is a copy of Lee County's proposed 10-year half-cent sales tax, and that's going to be on their November 2018 ballot. And if you'll recall, Lee County was, I believe, one of the 6 out of 67 counties that don't have any kind of discretionary sales surtax, but they do have impact fees. And even with impact fees, they are also trying to pass a half-cent sales tax, just like St. John's, who also has impact fees. And then the next two documents are from Osceola and Highland counties. Those two counties in 2016, I shouldn't swap county and district. Those two school districts passed in 2016 20-year half-cent sales tax for their schools. And so the facts, their frequently asked question documents, and then kind of their fact sheets I've copied for board members, and and this will become part of the record, so if somebody wanted to view these online, they could look at Board Docs. And then the last two documents are recent news articles. One is in reference to Polk County. It was written, I believe, just yesterday, if I know what today's date is. And it's Polk County is trying to renew their 15-year half-cent sales tax. And it talks about the items that they've been able to do with their half-cent sales tax and why it's good for their community. And then the last document is an article published last month, and it's about our neighboring county, Santa Rosa County, which has had a half-cent sales tax for schools since 1998, and they have voted to renew that half-cent sales tax till 2028. So essentially, they've had a half-cent and will have a half-cent sales tax for 30 years. And it talks, the headline is, Santa Rosa County plans 4 new schools in the next 10 years to deal with their booming population. And, you know, I too, probably like Mr. Bryant, had a lot of heartburn, but I probably would say a lot of elation. I think that, if anything, I walked away from our school board workshop very hopeful and very elated that, as Dr. White mentioned, when I ran for office in 2010, there was a half-cent sales tax proposal, and I agree it did not go well, and I think that it didn't go well for a variety of reasons, but one of those is that the school board at that time was not unanimous in its support of a half-cent sales tax. And so I am elated. It is my understanding, at least from the 3 board members who were at the workshop, that the school board is unanimous in its need for a half-cent sales tax. So I view that as progress. Also, what I would propose is that we not shelf this, and I feel complicit in that when we did decide to retract the original resolution at the end of the year last year, we didn't have a plan. We retracted it without a plan for how to go forward, and I think this time we have the opportunity to create a plan. And while I certainly agree with both Mr. Destin and Dr. White's comments on Thursday and Mr. Bryant's comments this evening, that I want it to be successful as well, I think we need to start now. And I think it's possible that we even approve a resolution sometime in the very near future in the plans of having a referendum, and we have options. My understanding, Mr. McGinnis, is that the new legislation from our state legislators doesn't restrict when we can have a referendum. It does not have to be at a general election. And so we could choose to have it at the next general election, which unfortunately wouldn't be until November of 2020. But there's also, I spoke with Mr. Lux this morning, there is another county-wide ballot that will be before the voters in the beginning of 2020. That's an option if we wanted to be on a county-wide ballot. And then we also have the option of doing a mail-out ballot like we had originally proposed. And I really feel like we need potentially a year out in front of the actual ballot date, and possibly even more to appropriately plan for the half-cent sales tax, not just from a marketing perspective, but certainly, as I mentioned at the workshop, going door to door, attending various organizations and groups, that takes time. And in addition, you know, even if we were able to approve the referendum tonight, we also have to get the approval of county commissioners. It would take 3 votes from our current county commissioners just to allow us to put this on the ballot. And I don't feel confident in whether we have the entire commission's true understanding of our need, not just for a half-cent sales tax, but possibly the need for a separate half-cent sales tax, as approximately 1/3 of our school districts have chosen, just like we were proposing this time. And I think that's important that we have a clear understanding among our county commissioners why we feel that's necessary. So I would like to propose that we continue this discussion, if it can't be an agenda item, or to have an action for a referendum. I would like us to potentially have it be a continued discussion item, so that we do, after board members have time to review documents, or to have discussions with other members in the community or in other school districts, that we continue the discussion and make plans to move forward, because I think we all agreed on Thursday that we need to do something. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and we need to make the plans and process in place so that it is possible to bring a referendum back to this on the agenda for approval.
Dr. White, if I might.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Ms. Thrush that this issue needs to have some very good vetting. I would suggest that we set it to a workshop if necessary, a workshop that is nothing but that in the near future. And that I also strongly agreed with your concept of a citizens advisory committee, and I see it's part of one of those resolutions. We've got to start from the ground up, and it will take us, I think the last successful sales tax we had, I think they spent 1.5 years before it went. So, you know, I support your suggestion that we need to go forward and workshop this at a public meeting so we can hammer out the details how we can make sure that this would pass should it go on the ballot.
Well, let's
ahead.
don't lose sight. You know, before the committee withdrew, Miss Anchor's committee, you know, I met with several people, and I was led to believe, and the only time we've ever been successful passing a sales tax is basically the school district was virtually we were involved, but we didn't go to the chambers, we didn't go to the Kiwanis. It was strictly done by the community itself. And I was led to believe that any chance we ever had of passing one, it's going to have to be led by not the school board or superintendent. It's going to have to be done by the community. And here's the thing, as Mr. Desta mentioned, I was deeply involved in the only sales tax that ever passed. We spent 6 months alone, a committee, spent 6 months just planning what you wanted to actually do if you passed the sales tax. And here's the most important thing to remember is, hey, as Ms. Anchors, the last committee, stated in the newspaper, that it was impossible to raise any revenue or anything, and no matter who is in charge, you have to find the money first. And you cannot, if this school board and superintendent wanted to spend taxpayers' dollar to try to pass the sales tax, that's the death deal to start with. And right now, with the situation that we faced in this school district, I'm not sure we could sell dollar bills for 50 cents. You know, so we need to get our act together, then fine, and I'll probably be long gone from this board, but with a new board and proper leadership, yes, we all know we desperately need a sales tax. But ladies and gentlemen, the minimum you won't have to raise is $100,000 to $150,000. I mean, to even think about having a chance to pass it. Well, right now, we was talking about trying to get something in November. We have zero money. I mean, we have to face reality. And the thing is the only time we've passed the sales tax, as Mr. Destin pointed out, we spent a great deal of time. As a matter of fact, Miss Jackson was a very, very strong proponent of the sales tax and worked very hard with it. She can tell you that it was something that it took a great deal of effort and also took a great deal of money. And I can tell you, as I feel like this board, I don't think any way that we would ever entertain the idea of using taxpayer dollars. And all of us want a sales tax. We desperately know we need it, but let's face reality. Right now, folks, we need to get our house in order, and then we need to try to pass the sales tax.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Ms. Thrush?
Well, I would just add that, I think we've discussed what the board can and can't do, and I think that's, part of statute that we can't use taxpayer funds to spend on a half-cent sales tax referendum, but we can use non-taxpayer revenue. And then I also mentioned at the board workshop on Thursday that I spoke with the head of the Highland County campaign, and while they're a much smaller school district, they spent under $30,000 for their campaign, and I'm not suggesting a dollar figure. I agree with Mr. Destin. I think we need to begin by having workshops and discussing what our options are and aren't. And only then will we have an idea of how to estimate what costs might be incurred. It depends on a ballot date. It depends on the type of ballot that we do, whether it's a mail out or with a general election or with an existing countywide election that's already occurring. So I agree that we need to have potentially a separate workshop on this issue so that we can discuss in the sunshine, not just amongst ourselves, but with district staff, and have their input how to move forward.
And one thing I would say is there are some of us left that were associated, Mr. Walker, with the successful initiative in 1994. And then, of course, the one in 2010 that you alluded to that was unsuccessful. But I want you board members to know that Mrs. Crawford, at my request, has retrieved the 1994 materials. And I would suggest that you take a look at those if you have an opportunity, that she has them. There are materials in there regarding this school board's specific motions to create the kind of committee that Mr. Walker and the one that you're alluding to, and there's language there that might be modeled should you wish to bring that forward. And it was exactly what Mr. Walker said. It was a community initiative, and I think that's the key to having this kind of thing passed. Is there any other comment?
I just
Yes,
want to
sir,
say
Mr.
one
Bryan.
thing. Ms. Thrush, you eloquently put what I was pretty much going to say today. But I do think as a board, to those people that are working for the school district, whose children go to the school district, or who live in our county, at some point, we have to address this. We do. And as a board, I think it is our civic duty to address that. And, like I said, it's something we cannot keep kicking the can down the road. We can't. I encourage people to go look into your neighborhood school, go visit and see what's going on. Ride a bus. See how those kids ride those buses. I just feel that it's important that, that I brought this up for discussion, for information, and it turned out to be healthy discussion. And I appreciate everybody who was here Thursday, and I respect everybody's opinions on that. But I do say that we have to get to a point where we are going to do something, because no matter what the issues are now, in 2 years we could have other issues come up. And when do we say we have to say, hey, whatever those issues are, we still have to address the critical needs of our infrastructure in our school and the safety of our schools.
All right, anything else? All right, hearing no further discussion?
On
You have
that
something
item.
else?
Well, I mean, are we still on board member time?
Yes,
'Cause I do
ma'am.
I have good news. It was an incredibly busy weekend. I feel for all of our administrators out there at all the various events, but I was able to attend 2 theatrical performances, and I think there were 4 this weekend. But I was able to attend the performance by the Fort Walton Beach High School students of Shrek, and it was phenomenal, great performance, and even my 9-year-old son loved it. And then I was also able to attend Niceville High School's first theatrical performance in over a decade, and again, just a wonderful performance. And my 9-year-old was comparing the two and discussing different things that he liked about both. So kudos to those students and staff, and also the amazing volunteers that help create those performances. Also, Silver Sands, I wanted to publicly thank our leadership students at Fort Walton Beach High School for all that they do for their partnership with Silver Sands School. They not only do the mother-daughter tea, the dude day, and then I was able to drag my 9-year-old son to Silver Sands prom on Friday. And again, just a phenomenal job, and wonderful to see our leadership students at Fort Walton Beach High School being so giving of their time. I wanted to congratulate Niceville High School's track team. They placed first in district. They're headed to regionals this week. We also had our radioactive roaches robotics team at their first ever national competition in Houston this week. And the update was that while they didn't win, their robot scored the 11th scorest highest rank in their division. So very proud of that robotics group and all their efforts to make it to nationals this year. And there's many more. I think the choral groups also had state music performance assessments last week, and again, a phenomenal job by our high school choral groups. And I think Baker High School performed at Disney. Their band did. So kudos to them. Great opportunity for those students up at Baker. That's my good news.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. Mr. Bryant?
Just real quick, you know, you alluded at Thursday's workshop, the reason why this seat was empty was because I was on official school board business. I was representing the school district with FSBIT, which is the Florida School Board Insurance Trust. And Ms. Jackson, I want to report that me and Russ Frakes had a very great time as far as learning all the benefits that we are getting from FSBIT. And he will be sharing with you some items that has come to him. I also want to commend that I didn't have the opportunity to go to any of those productions because I was out of town, but I did go to Crestview's production of Clue. So, you know, I like Mr. Rush will say that if you want to go see some great theatrical performances, you don't have to fly all the way up to New York. You can just go to your local high school, and they always put on a good fall presentation and a good spring presentation. So kudos to all of our schools that put on these wonderful performances. And I really hate that I missed Shrek, because I really like Shrek. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bryant. All right, any staff member business? Anything? How about association business? Mr. McInnes, we got it all covered?
Yes, sir.
This meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, it was really good. The ending was a little different.
Scared you with all those paper, wasn't it?
Pretty much some of the I'm reading verbatim.
All right.
Okay, see you, Dick. Yeah, we eat it with Friday. We're gonna eat. Yeah, it did good.
I got a little party they're having for Matt Gaines at the restaurant. This is the great majority of it.
This right here. Hey, Dewey, don't forget your book, man.
Yeah. You might want to forget it.
Hey, that's just the start.
Yeah. Like Rita
You know,
said.